Fewer and fewer people in the world are actually good at the seduction game. A coquette is like almost impossible to resist. It works on all of the elements of human psychology.
The seducer is not someone who's all worried about him or herself and thinking. They're involved in the other person. They're absorbed like a sponge.
In seduction, I give the 9 types of seducer.
What makes for a great seducer is very simple. I can summarize it very simply.
Seduction is a form of power. And basically what you're doing is you're getting people to kind of do what you want in the end, but they don't realize it because you are so clever and you're so indirect, and you give people a feeling of pleasure that their defenses go down and they feel comfortable around you. They like you, they may even love you. And now you can kind of move them in a direction that you want. And the idea behind it is that in the world today, people do not have enough pleasure, right? It's probably the one thing that they're missing the most. They're so wired, they're so working so hard, they're so single-mindedly focused on their careers, et cetera, that they're not having any pleasure. And then in our social world, everyone is so selfish and narcissistic that no one is really giving you attention that you like. If I were to try and seduce Pani, right, I would figure out what makes you different, what makes you unique, what you love in life that nobody else is giving you. You know, things from your childhood, things that make you excited, that you love, certain colors, certain flowers, certain gifts, certain places. And I would give that to you. I would get into your world instead of being obsessed with myself. I would get outside of myself into Pani's world, and I would say, this is what she is missing in her life, and I'm going to give it to her. The power of that is absolutely immense because nobody is giving that to you in general, right? And so a simple example would be, we have a conversation at a restaurant at night, we're having dinner, and you say some things that you're not really paying attention to, and they're just sort of off the cuff, but they kind of reveal something that bothers you or something that you really are excited about. And then the next day, I bring up what you said in a different form, perhaps. I kind of quote you or something, or I give it a different spin. And I don't call a lot of attention to it, but to you that goes, wow, Robert was actually really listening to me. He heard what I said. He understood kind of what was behind my words. That's really interesting. Nobody ever does that. Okay, and as that happens, you start becoming a little less resistant. You start seeing Robert in a different way. You say, maybe this person can give me things that I don't get from other people. It doesn't matter if that other person isn't the handsomest person in the world or isn't all buffed out or et cetera. But they understand the psychology, right? They understand for a man what a woman is missing, or for a man what a man is missing for a woman. They understand this. That's what gives you the degree of seductive power in life. And that can make people fall in love with you. It can also mean in your office, you're not making people fall in love with you because that's kind of creepy, but you're making people like you. They feel charmed. You have a certain presence about you that you're empathetic, that you kind of understand them, that makes people want to be around you. Or if you're marketing your product, you know what seduces the masses, and people will buy your product. It gives you immense power. Because if in politics, if in the office, if within the sexual realm or in marketing, you're too direct, you're too forceful, people will go, that's ugly. I don't want anything of that. You're in my face. But if you're indirect, if you come from here instead of from here, they have no defenses. They go, wow, I'm going to buy your product. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to like you in the office. I'm going to have sex with you, or I'm going to fall in love with you. Okay? So it's an incredible, powerful device that fewer and fewer and fewer people in this world understand. Fewer and fewer people in the world are actually good at the seduction game because for whatever reason, we're not used to it. In the world of Tinder, etc., it becomes an app. It's not anymore your psychology. It's more like, boom, 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 right? But what's more important is understanding people's psychology, not an algorithm. That's like a machine. That's like a computer. That's not human. Humans have emotions. Humans have psychology. Humans have weaknesses. So get out of that boom, boom, boom. Spend time around people and get inside their worlds. There are a couple, enter their spirit, which is one of the strategies. Well, first of all, in Seduction, I give the 9 types of seducer. And I try and say that if you're too obvious in your seductive moves, if people know, oh, Pani read The Art of Seduction and she's using it on me, that's not going to be very effective, right? So you have to feel natural. You have to feel like it's not a game you're playing, but it's part of your personality. You're naturally like this. And I give you these types of seducers, right? You have to find something that you're naturally good at that's part of your character and bring that out so people don't see you as being manipulative. So let's say you're naturally a coquette. A coquette is somebody, often a woman, but it can be a man, who blows hot and cold. So one moment you're being very excited by that person. You're giving them looks that are very suggestive. It's extremely powerful, right? For men in particular. A coquette is like almost impossible to resist. It works on all of the elements of human psychology. But if it's so clear that that's what you're doing, then it doesn't work. It's like, I can see her a mile away. She's playing that game. I don't want anything to do with her. But the true coquette is naturally like that. They feel kind of ambivalent about people. They naturally feel kind of hot and cold, right? And so it's something that's inside of them. So they're not playing a game. It's naturally who they are. So when they turn cold, it doesn't feel like a game. It's actually how they feel. That's what makes it so powerful. There's a tactic in there called create triangles, appear to be an object of desire, which is to me one of the most powerful of all the seductive strategies you can use. And essentially what it means is if you pass by on the street of New York or Los Angeles, a restaurant that seems kind of interesting, but there's only one table that's people are sitting at, you go, maybe not, it doesn't seem that good. Then you pass by another restaurant that may not have as good food, but it's packed with people. 30 people are in there. They're laughing, having a great time. They're drinking. You go, let's go in there. It's the same thing in relationships. If you see a person who's has no friends, who's never dated anyone before, who lives in some sloppy studio apartment and is kind of alone a lot, you're less likely to get involved in a relationship. But if you see that same person and they're in a party and all the women are talking to him and everyone who's popular, he's got that kind of energy, go, I'm interested in him. Appear to be desired by other people is the lesson.
Seduction is a high form of power because you make people feel pleasure. You make them feel excited or interested in you. And then their resistance to your ideas slowly lowers, and you have the ability to influence them and to move them in the direction that you want. If you yell at them, like we were talking about your child, and you tell them, do this, do that, they resent it, and for good reason. But if you're subtler, if you're more seductive in your approach, if you're more indirect, people will do what you want or go in your direction without ever even realizing it. What makes for a great seducer is very simple. I can summarize it very simply. You are outer directed. So when you meet somebody for the first time or you're on a date or whatever it is, you're not having that internal monologue going, does she like me or does he like me? Am I dressed well? Am I saying stupid things? What can I do to impress them? No. You turn it off and you're outer directed and you're listening to them and you're entering their spirit and you're hearing them say things that give you idea of what they're missing in life, of what they want, of what their needs are, of what makes them an individual. You're absorbing it, you're entering into their spirit, and then you can reflect it back to them. You can give them gifts, you can take them to places that show that you're attentive to them. Because if you look at how we are in our day-to-day life, normally people never pay us attention. they're always so self-absorbed. They're never thinking about us. The times where you get the sense that people are actually interested in who you are as an individual is pretty rare. If you give that feeling to someone, it's incredibly powerful because we all want to be validated. We all want to be recognized. So the seducer is not someone who's all worried about him or herself and thinking. They're involved in the other person. They're absorbed like a sponge inside their psychology, inside their world. But one quality that's very anti-seductive is preaching and moralizing. Is like telling people, oh, that's wrong what you just said, or your politics are ugly, or you're not really good at this, or something or other. Having a moral superiority, a sense of sanctimony in a realm which should be about pleasure, where should be that kind of equality, that kind of back and forth dynamic, where you're asserting your moral superiority, is deeply, deeply anti-seductive, the element of preaching to people. Not being generous, and I mean not just with money is important, but not being generous with your spirit, right? You want to be open, you want to give as much as you can to the other person of yourself, of your time, of your money, of your energy, etc. So being all kind of crimped and I don't want to give, I don't want to spend money, I want to take you to the cheap place to eat, I don't want to give you much time, is very, very anti-seductive. Now there is a part of weakness that is seductive. So I would say vulnerability is seductive, but insecurity is anti-seductive. And there's a big difference. If I can define seduction in simple terms, most of the time we are closed to the influence of other people. Particularly now, we have these walls up because life is harsh. People are coming at us with their advertisements, with their pleas, with their wanting money, with this, that, and the other. And we've all learned to be very defensive, right? And seduction is an openness, is the opposite of that. And you felt it when you were a child towards your parents. You felt very vulnerable and open. And there was an element of your parents and how they treated you that was very much like a seduction, right? So seduction is about being open to the other person to the extent where you can even fall in love. You can fall under their spell. And the sense of letting go of your ego, letting go of your defensiveness, and letting another person enter your world is being seduced. It requires vulnerability. The typical scenario is of a man who's not vulnerable at all. He's so powerful and in control and everything, has no vulnerabilities. It's frightening. You know, for a woman, it could be very frightening. Like this, he's so strong, he's so invulnerable that there's something wrong about it. You know, maybe he's a serial killer. Maybe he's got skeletons in his closet. Something isn't right about that. What seduces you about a puppy, about a child, about an animal, is their vulnerability. It makes you want to hug them. It makes you want to help them, right? The sense which if you came upon a tiger that's there and they don't need that, well, that's not seductive. I mean, on your screen it is, but if they're there in your living room, that's not seductive. But that puppy is, right? Vulnerability, the sense that somebody needs protection or help, brings out qualities in us that we don't normally have that I think allow for seduction. So that is being vulnerable. That is, I can be influenced by that other person. I am open to their spirit, right? That's being vulnerable. The word vulnerable comes from the root of it means a wound, vulnus. So you have a wound inside of you and you need healing. And the other person naturally wants to help you, right? But being insecure is means I'm so self-absorbed, I'm so worried about myself that I can't get out of it. And we've all had that experience. When you meet somebody and you can sense, you can smell their insecurity in them, it makes you feel insecure. It makes you feel a little bit awkward. Whereas if you meet someone who's not like that, who's confident, etc., it brings out that quality in you. So if you're on a date and there's someone you smell that kind of insecurity, it makes you awkward and insecure. It creates a kind of a problem. So that would be the difference between the two.